Let's be honest. You thought about them today. Maybe you thought about them all day, or maybe it was just a few minutes here and there. But still, they showed up. In that strange, familiar ache that sneaks in when something reminds you of them. And maybe you're tired of it. Tired of the mental reruns. Tired of wondering if they're thinking about you. Tired of how much space they still take up in your mind, even after it's over. And if you're really honest, it's not just tiring. It's kind of exhausting. You just want it to stop. You want the peace and quiet to come back. You want to stop losing focus at work, stop checking their social media, and stop having conversations in your head that you'll never actually have in real life. You want it to be done. If that's you, I want you to hear something you may not have heard enough. You're not stuck. You're not broken. And you're not the only one who can't stop thinking about someone who's no longer in your life. There are real reasons this happens. And no, it's not just because you're too sensitive or too emotional or too attached. There are actual emotional, neurological, and relational mechanisms at play. And once you start to understand them, something really powerful happens. You stop blaming yourself. And that inner pressure starts to loosen just enough for healing to begin. So let's talk about it. Let's break this down together. One reason you can't stop thinking about them is because your brain got used to them. Literally. When you're emotionally connected to someone, your nervous system starts associating them with safety. Not necessarily because they were safe, but because they were predictable. Your brain and body got into a rhythm that included them. They became part of your internal stability system. So when they're suddenly gone, your system doesn't just miss them, it panics. Because the pattern it was depending on just disappeared. And your brain doesn't like disruption. It likes answers. It likes order. So what does it do? It starts obsessively looking for them. Replaying memories. Trying to reinsert them into your mental equation. Even if you know they're not coming back. Even if you're the one who walked away. That doesn't matter to your nervous system. It just knows something is missing. And that's why this doesn't feel like a passing thought. It feels like a full-body experience, like withdrawal, because in some ways it is. Let me be really clear about this. You're not weak for feeling this way. You're not behind and you're not broken. You're recalibrating. You're learning to live without someone your system thought was important. That takes time, gentleness, and way more self-compassion than most of us are taught to give ourselves. So the next time your mind drifts to them again, and you catch yourself going back into the loop, try this. Don't fight it. Fighting it makes it stronger. Instead, just pause and say, okay, my brain is trying to bring me comfort the way it used to. But I'm safe, even without them. That simple reminder helps your nervous system start building a new baseline, one that doesn't need their presence to feel okay. Another reason you can't stop thinking about them is because you're still trying to make sense of what happened. Especially if the ending didn't make much sense. Maybe they ghosted you. Maybe it was sudden or inconsistent, or left you with more questions than answers. Maybe they said they loved you, and then they left. Or maybe they gave you a reason that felt vague, like it didn't match the way things actually felt when you were together. And now your brain is in detective mode. It replays conversations and looks for clues. Scans for red flags you missed. Not because you're obsessed, but because your brain is wired for patterns and closure. When it doesn't get a clean ending, it keeps working behind the scenes to find one. This is why you find yourself thinking about what they meant when they said that one thing. Or why they acted distant for those last few weeks. Or why something that felt so mutual suddenly felt one-sided. Your brain's just trying to solve for why. It wants order. And without order, it gives you loops. This is why heartbreak can feel so mentally consuming. Not just because of the loss, but because your mind keeps pulling on the thread, hoping that if it just tugs hard enough, everything will unravel into a clear explanation. And honestly, sometimes it never does. And that's hard to sit with. Especially when you're someone who values truth and clarity. You were honest with them and you trusted what you were building because the lack of answers feels like a kind of emotional betrayal, one that keeps reopening the wound even after the person is gone. So what do you do with that? You remind yourself, not every story ends with resolution. And not every person is capable of giving you clarity, even if they owe it to you. Sometimes people exit the way they lived, with inconsistency, avoidance, or emotional confusion. And sometimes what they didn't say tells you more than what they ever could have explained. Here's something I hope will bring a little peace. You don't need a clean explanation in order to heal, and you don't have to get to the bottom of their behavior to move forward with your life. It's enough to know that it ended, it hurt, that you were affected, and that you deserve peace even without perfect understanding. So the next time you catch yourself replaying that final conversation or digging through texts or wondering what they really meant, try this instead. Take a deep breath and say, I don't have to understand their choices to validate my own experience. I know how it felt and I can move forward with what I know. The third reason you can't stop thinking about them is because you still care, and that doesn't make you weak. Maybe you still love them, or you're missing the version of yourself that felt seen, hopeful, and connected when you were with them. Or maybe you're not even sure what you feel anymore. You just know their name is still echoing in your thoughts more than you wish it were. And here's what I need you to know. Caring about someone who's no longer in your life doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It doesn't mean you're failing at healing, and it doesn't mean you're holding on to false hope or being too emotional. It means your heart worked the way it was supposed to. You opened up, you hoped, you let yourself feel it, and that takes courage. That's a strength that many people don't have. And now there's space. Space where their presence used to be. And that space feels unfamiliar. Sometimes even unbearable. It's not just quiet, it's hollow. It reminds you of what you had, what you hoped for, or what felt like it could have been. That's why grief after love is so complicated. You're not just grieving a person, you're grieving who you were with them. You're grieving the version of your life that included them, and that version might have felt like the most alive or hopeful you've been in a long time. So of course your thoughts keep returning. Of course you find yourself remembering, wondering, wishing. And you might even be afraid that if you stop thinking about them, you'll lose something important. Like if you stop replaying the moments, it will mean they didn't matter, that it wasn't real, or that your love didn't count. But it did. It does. Thinking about them less isn't the goal. Healing is. And healing will eventually take you there, gently. Not through force or pretending, but through honesty, rest, and eventually release. That space where they lived in your mind, it won't stay empty forever. Slowly, it'll be filled with peace and with things that nourish you, not just the memory of them. And someday, you'll catch yourself realizing you made it through the day without thinking of them once. And that moment won't feel cold, it'll feel free. So when their name drifts through your thoughts again, and it will, try this. Don't rush to shut it down. Just acknowledge it, and then bring yourself back to now. And if you're a person of faith, I want you to hear this clearly. God is not disappointed in you for circling back. He's not tallying your progress, and he's not frustrated that you still think about your ex. He understands. He's near, even to the wandering parts of your mind. He's not rushing you out of this moment. He's simply staying with you in it. So if you're still thinking about them today, tomorrow, or even months from now, just know this. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means something mattered and you felt something real. It means your heart is still processing a loss it didn't ask for. And that is not weakness. That is grief. And grief isn't linear. It doesn't show up in order or disappear on a schedule. Some days you'll feel like you've moved on. Other days you'll wonder if you've made any progress at all. And that's okay. Healing doesn't look like a perfect forward climb. It looks like waves. And just because a wave comes back doesn't mean you're starting over. You can still heal while remembering. You can still move forward while occasionally looking back. And most importantly, you can hold space for your heart to still care, without needing to stay stuck. That thought you just had about them, it doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means your brain noticed something familiar. The goal isn't to erase them from your mind. The goal is to grow into a version of yourself who no longer feels defined or weighed down by what happened. And you're getting there. You are. Maybe slower than you'd like, and with more emotions than you expected. But every breath you take without reaching out, every time you let the memory pass without spiraling, that's healing. That's strength, and it counts. If you're a person of faith, remember, God doesn't require you to be emotionally untangled before He meets you. He's in the thoughts and moments when you say, I know I shouldn't be thinking about them, but I still am. He's not disappointed. He's present, patient, and kind. He will walk with you through all of this and into your next chapter, where He's planning something that's way better than you can even imagine right now. So put some hope in that. You're not behind, you're just in it. And the fact that you're here, listening, learning, trying, that tells me everything I need to know about the strength you don't even realize you have. If this spoke to something you've been carrying, consider subscribing. I'll be posting more videos like this one. You don't have to go through this alone, and you don't have to rush the process. You may not have all the answers, but you are still seen, loved, and held by a God who doesn't abandon the brokenhearted.